Hi everyone, Rachel Adams here, leadership practitioner and coach. As many of you will know, we've been having several conversations on our Instagram Live with practitioners and experts on subject matter that we believe is valuable during this COVID-19 period. As many of us are shut down or locked down, a big question that we have is how do we keep our businesses alive during this period? Especially for those of us who have small businesses, which are the hardest hit because our cash flows aren't great. And because actually many of us don't really have a business, we're self employed. And so the dynamics of that are different to businesses that have larger infrastructure. And so, one of the conversations that I had was with Shirley Pearson, who is well skilled and well tooled to have this conversation with us. Shirley Pearson is a business and executive coach. She's an expert in strategic management, and she's also the franchise owner of Action Coach Inala. And Shirley took us through some really critical pointers to remember during this time. Now, for reasons that I don't understand, our Instagram Live hasn't been saving our videos. And so many of you haven't been able to go and watch them post the conversation. And so that's why I thought summarizing what we had gone through would be important. Shirley focused on 5 things. The first is using this moment as an important time to really analyze where your business is at. Number 2, she talked about having a relationship with your customers. The third thing she focused on was the relationship with your product. The fourth was the quality of leadership that is important during this time. And the fifth was the mindset that is important. In the hard analysis of where you are at, one of the things that Shirley spoke about is being really clear and brutal with yourself about what your business is and where your business actually is at. One of the things she said is that the most challenging thing is that many of us are calling ourselves a business, but actually we're just self employed, or that we haven't gone through the steps that allow our business to make the kinds of income that the business could make because we don't have the right elements in place. So one of the things she was really driving was this is an important time for you to have a hard conversation with yourself about where your business finds itself. If you don't have cash flow that will last you for at least 3 months to a year, it's her analysis of that was essentially you don't have a business. And so this is a time to have hard conversations with yourself. If you employ a few people, to have hard conversations with those people about where is our business really at and what are some of the things that we should be doing. For example, during this time, are you focused on just surviving, or is this a time that is potentially a growth period for you? And it's important to look at your resources and say what makes sense. If it's time to survive, then we want to be cutting on costs. We want to be cutting on things that are not vital for the organization right now. But if you feel that this is an opportunity in which you can grow, then it's a different set of conversations that are available to you based on where you are at. So that's number one. The second thing she said was, this is a moment in which relationship to customers matter. And one of her key advice points was that this might not be the time for you to be doing hard selling and trying to bring in new customers. This may, in fact, be the time in which you want to cultivate old relationships. She emphasized the fact that when this time, this period comes to an end, your customers will remember you for how you remembered them. So if you are reaching out, if you are trying to cultivate and deepen relationships with already existing clients, specifically asking the question, how can we serve you during this time? Then Shirley believes that you're doing the right thing and that this is in fact the best thing you can do strategically in terms of your relationship to customers. So look at those old relationships, look at customers that you haven't spoken to in a while, reach out to them, find out how they're doing, and figure out how it is that you can support them during this time. The third thing that she talked about is relationship to your product. So many of you will know that there have been conversations around should organizations at this time be pivoting, right? So if you, for example, and this was a very good example that I came across, that Kim Kardashian actually, because of the amount of alcohol they have in their factories because they make perfume, they've basically pivoted their production to create perfumes. to create sanitizers versus perfumes, my apologies. And so there's an opportunity for you to do the same in your business and to look at what your pivot looks like. So if there's a raw product that you have in great supply that could be helpful in this time, then it might be a good time to pivot. But she did say that you want to pivot versus to pirouette. And so pivoting is a small turn, whereas a pirouette is like a 100% spin. And her suggestion was that this is not a good time to start to think about either starting a new business or completely changing your business. For her, starting businesses is really about availability of resources, and at a time where the world is in a crunch around resources, then this might not be the right moment to have a conversation around changing your business entirely. One of the things she also said, by the way, that was difficult to swallow but was true, is that some businesses just won't survive this moment. If your business is too weak, it doesn't have enough reserves, if there isn't enough access to support mechanisms that will allow your business to survive, then it may also be just about accepting that your business won't make it through this time. Hard to hear, but very useful advice. The fourth thing is on the kind of leadership that is very important during this time. The first thing she mentioned was that, because of all of the time that we have to introspect and self-analyze, this is an important time for you to become a great leader. So she said, go online and find material, read books, listen to talks that make you a great leader, because this is what is needed during this time. And some of what she was calling great leadership was decisiveness and visibility. This is not the time to disappear. This is not the time to be wallowing in your misery. This is the time to really be visible for your team, to really be visible for yourself, and to be courageous to make the kinds of decisions that will allow you to continue to stay alive during this time. She also talked about that leaders should keep at the fore of their mind the elements of change management, because of course, as we all know, even in a situation of change or die, human beings struggle with change. And so this is a critical moment to keep elements of change management in mind: confidence as a leader, the kind of clarity that you provide, the way in which you communicate, and also the consistency with which you communicate, with which you communicate. And that if you focus on those four elements, you will be essentially helping your team go through the change management process much better. The other thing she said about leaders is that this is the moment for courageous conversations. I've already spoken to that in point one, but there is an opportunity here, and she was emphasizing courageous conversations specifically around hard things. So one of the listeners asked, I own property, and some of my tenants can't afford to pay me at this point in time. What do I do? Do I kick them out? Because I'm also trying to survive. And she said this is not the time for pronouncements. This is not the time for bullying people because everybody is vulnerable. It is an incredible moment in which we can have courageous conversations that are really around seeing each other and being human. And so she suggested in this particular context that, for example, have conversations with your tenants about what they can afford to pay. Because if everybody is limited, then we should have conversations about how do we meet people where those at the level of their limitation, essentially. So have courageous conversations, but also have courageous conversations with your team and your employees, for example, about how much you can afford in terms of salary. And you said, again, this is not a space to be making pronouncements. I will only pay you this much, but it's about asking, what are your critical expenses at this time? And as a business owner, I can only afford to provide for those. I might not be able to provide for much more. And really, it's about being a team and making the decisions that support you. And finally, mindset. She says, this is the moment in which, when the going gets tough, the tough get going. And so she says the people who will survive this environment will essentially work harder. And so there was an invitation for you to really put some critical eyes onto your business, have the courageous conversation, show up as a leader, have the kind of mindset that allows your people to thrive in this environment, and that hopefully you will survive this space. So I hope that has been useful as a summary. Shirley, I hope I did you justice. But continue to watch our Instagram lives. They're usually during the week at 11 a.m. and we will be speaking to experts and various practitioners on topics that we feel will be helpful for you during this time. Thank you so much and have a good day. Bye-bye.